Today is April 2nd, 2020, and I will be sharing my exact symptoms that I had with the coronavirus. So in a previous video, I had ranted off anything I could think of about the coronavirus, perhaps even a bit too long, but in this video, I wanted to share my exact symptoms I had day to day. Today being April 2nd, it's the first day I've woken up and actually felt close to 100% to my normal baseline. So let's begin. March 26th, that's the day of my birthday. That's the only reason I can remember the day I started feeling bad, because after that I was fatigued, I was losing track of time. I had to try to write down my exact symptoms. I just kind of scribbled notes for myself. So if anyone else is feeling symptoms, especially if you're a healthcare worker, that's kind of why I'm making this, just to go get tested if you're not feeling well, and just really to encourage you to stay at home, to not get your patients sick. So 26, sometime in the afternoon, I was feeling a little bit achy, and I normally don't do this, but I took 200 milligrams of an ibuprofen. This was before I knew anything about ibuprofen being bad for COVID-19. Mind you, wasn't thinking I had COVID-19, and went along my day, celebrated part of my birthday, had a good dinner, had some good dessert, and somewhere around then, my body, it was like a switch. I started feeling fatigued. I started to have just the slightest sore throat, a headache, just that achy feeling when you know your body, when you know that you're sick. So I went ahead, I drove home, I got some rest. I didn't wake up the next day until like 12:30 p.m., which, to be honest, for me, that's not unheard of. I've slept in before, but usually when I sleep in, it's like before 11. This was, I'm saying I got a phone call, and I tried to do a couple of things for like 2 hours, and the entire time I was miserable. So usually when I'm sick, when I say I was fatigued, usually when I'm sick, uh, it's this kind of fatigued feeling where I feel like being in bed all day, and I feel like watching Netflix all day, or doing something lazy. This was the kind of fatigued where opening my eyes for Netflix felt like too much energy. Getting to my kitchen table felt like a workout. Like I would go to my kitchen for water, and I would be like, whew, all right, back to bed. And I tend to push myself through sicknesses. So when I woke up around 12:30 p.m., I was feeling a little guilty. I wanted to get things done, and I said, all right, I'm going to get some things done today. But around 2:30 p.m. hit, I had to go back to bed. I was that tired. But my two biggest symptoms were fatigue, and I had a headache. Um, I was, I would wake up with a sore throat at times, uh, and I had aches and pains, but I mean, compared to other illnesses that I had before, it really wasn't something that was on the forefront of my mind. The biggest thing I couldn't get over was that fatigue and the headache. So day two rolls in, feeling a little bit better, kind of pushing through the day. Still the same thing, essentially fatigue and headache. It was just all milder symptoms. I think I was able to get up for dinner that day, do a few things, but I mean, really, with this virus, it took about 2 days, just totally took it out of me until I could kind of get back to normal. The 28th, I decided to go ahead and get myself tested. I was supposed to start work Tuesday. So what, I think that's the 30th? Let me go check that. Okay, so the 30th is a Monday. So I was supposed to start work again on the 31st, and I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to be around patients if I had this virus, and I wasn't even sure, to be honest. By the 28th, I was having such mild symptoms. I was probably about 80% better. I really wasn't sure if a positive result was even going to come back. But sure enough, I waited I think it was like 46 hours, and I got the results back, got the call that I was positive. Um, the 29th, I essentially again had the same symptoms, the fatigue, the headache, but by this point, I want to say I was 85% better. So all the same symptoms, just extremely mild, and maybe even a little bit worse, to be honest, than the day before. I was a little concerned it was going to come back. Um, I think I woke up with a sore throat that day. Each of these days that I woke up, I remember coughing up some sort of phlegm. It was a little bloody. It was kind of gross, but aside from doing that once, I mean, I wasn't really coughing throughout the day. I didn't, even the sore throat would kind of subside. The night of the 30th, so that would be day, 4 with this virus, I actually started coughing a little bit. It was a little difficult to get to bed. Again, I was concerned it was going to make a resurgence and kind of make a comeback for my lungs because I hadn't really felt anything with my lungs yet. But woke up the next morning about 90% better, 95% better. Um, the 31st, kind of about the same, 90%, 95% better. I think at this point my headache was gone. Really, just the only thing I say like 90, 95% better is I have like moments of fatigue, brief moments where I'm perhaps hacking up a little bit of phlegm, but almost not enough to even really consider much of anything. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, other than that, like woke up yesterday with kind of like some bumps in my throat, feeling a little fatigued, but that was really it. And then after that, I mean, it was basically good for the day. Um, and then today I woke up, nothing whatsoever. So I'm just praising the Lord that my symptoms are not worse. Um, I'm still kind of, again, shocked that I did get this virus, that it is a respiratory virus, and I didn't really seem to get too much of my respiratory virus. When the PA checked my lungs when I got tested, he said they were clear. That is the other thing I forgot to mention. That third day, because I don't have access to a thermometer right now, but that third day, that day I decided to get tested, when I got my vitals, my heart rate was 108, and they took the temperature in my ear. It was 99.2, and that was the day I was feeling a lot better. Um, so I was like, "Whoa, that's not normal for me. Usually my heart rate is somewhere around 70, and I sit somewhere in 98 for the temperature, as far as I know." Uh, but that's essentially it. Um, Symptoms started on March 26th. Today is April 2nd. I'm feeling almost 100% better. And that was kind of my walkthrough and everything that I felt. So, again, my plea is if you're a healthcare worker and you're having some of these symptoms, get tested. Just check it out. Maybe you just have a fever, but it's not worth it. It's not worth getting your patients sick. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else I missed. I think there's one other thing I missed, and that was just how cold I felt. And that was probably because I was running a fever. I think it was 70 degrees one day. I think that was the 28th. It was like 70 degrees, and I was wearing a hoodie and a coat around the house, just because I was so freezing. But it was in the 70s. Even when I walked outside, I was cold. Um, that is all I can think of. But in the meantime, if you're not feeling well, stay home. Uh, it's just worth it, right? I just like to think of my grandma or someone else's grandma, right? If I'm going to the grocery store and I cough or I sneeze or I touch something, and then, someone else's grandma touches something, they are not going to be able to fight it off as well as someone who's young and healthy is going to be able to fight it off. I think the mortality rate now, at least the last I heard, for people over 80 is somewhere like 14%. And you might not ever know that you've touched a few things in the grocery store and you spread it, but it's simply not worth it. Do your research. It's not the flu. It's not the cold. Um, and even though it's maybe not the worst thing I've ever gotten before, it's definitely as far as fatigue, that topped anything I've gotten, and it's just not worth it. Stay home, get better, monitor your temperature. That's about all I gotta say. Just do your part, and if you do that, there's not really much more you can do. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, I'm gonna be waiting for my comment section. I'm here at home. I'm self-quarantining, so I've got no reason for me not to respond to your questions. So thank you guys so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day.